Tyler, Chapter 1. That summer was strange from the very beginning. June was cold and misty. July it rained most of the month. One thunderstorm after another. Trees fell, creeks overflowed. Flanders Lake rose above the shoreline, up to the doors of the cabins and trailers. Boats sank or were ravaged against the docks. Some of the docks themselves got washed away and went sailing down the lake like battered vessels. It seemed like the only house in Baldwick Cove that didn't suffer any damage was the one right across the water. That one I saw every time I looked out the window of the trailer. It was supposed to have cost at least $1 million to build, and no one had ever lived there. It belonged, so they said, to a Dr. Kaplan from Norwood, who named it Lucinda after his wife. We just called it the house. I watched it endure the summer storms, the lashing rains, and merciless winds, but I never once saw a board break, a gutter sag, or a window crack. It just kept standing, strong and proud, as if it might be sneering at the weaker houses, laughing at them. August had turned warm and sticky, so humid you could feel the air on your skin like a hot, damp cloth. The sun was out almost every day. The mosquitoes buzzed, the frogs croaked, the lake retreated. The land dried up and chiggerweed sprouted. Crickets hid in them, talking at sunset. It was the way summer was supposed to be. Almost. I was 16, and it was the first summer I'd lived away from home. I'd been in love with Flanders Lake ever since I could remember, and always dreamed of living there one day. But by the time I got my chance, I was ready to forget that dream. The trailer in question didn't belong to me or my family. It belonged to my best friend, Rodney Stone. His folks had bought it when we were 10, and they used to go there all the time and take us. They lost interest and stopped going, but Rod and I never got bored with it. We went up every chance we got. His folks didn't care. They let us stay. They let us use the boat. They even gave us money for groceries. I couldn't ever decide if they were being generous or just trying to get us out of the way. But then, I've never been great at understanding parents. When my father died that summer, the first day of June, I needed a place to live. My mother completely freaked out. Of course, her connection to reality had never been all that strong. You know how every family has a great Aunt somebody. Well, that was my mother. Crazy Aunt Jo. Not flighty, eccentric, wacky, scatterbrained, laugh-a-minute type crazy. Honest to goodness shock treatment and antidepressant type crazy. I'm aware that I'm not supposed to use that word. I'm supposed to use specific medical phraseology like manic depressive or general personality disorder. But since my mother has never been diagnosed by a doctor, it's hard to talk about the nature of her problem. She's just not in the same orbit as the rest of us. So, pardon me. So when Dad died, Mom's sister swooped down on her like pigeons on breadcrumbs and whisked her away. They knew if they left her alone, she'd be in an institution in no time. My aunts volunteered to take me in, but when I told them, when I said no, I had other plans. They didn't look too disappointed. Rod's parents were going on some extended trip around the country in a Winnebago. They always thought of me as family, so they told me I could stay in the trailer for the summer. Rod went with them for part of the trip, but then he came back. He came to the lake every other weekend to hang out with me. and the rest of the time he stayed in town so he could work. I had a part-time job building and repairing docks on the lake. It was pretty steady after July. Everybody and his brother needed a new one. In a curious way, those days are pleasant to think back on. They were satisfying. I kept busy doing all my favorite things, so I never got lonely. August found me lying on the grass or floating on the lake, skimming the boat across the glassy blue water. I felt warm and healed up. The lake always did that to me. But then there were the nights. That was when my father's death came to me, trying to work its way in like a pet I'd left out in the cold. "What about me?" it said. And then the dreams started. Dark images, shadows on the wall, presences that felt real. I'd wake up sweating, sometimes crying. I have to stare at the lake until I felt safe again, its water sloshing back and forth, sounding familiar and comforting. The lake had always been there. It would always be there. It wouldn't abandon me. When the shoreline was edged in pink, I'd fall asleep again, full of hope. That was how my life was unfolding that August. That summer. That was how my life was unfolding that August. That strange summer, when my father died, when I met a bee, when everything got as bizarre as it could possibly get. And then got worse.